Hi everyone, this is Noelle from Petitti Garden Centers, and we are going to show you how we grew peppers in containers. And I thought this was a great kind of experiment for us. We were growing in same size pots, same planting mix, same fertilization for all of them. We decided to put a companion plant in the pepper with them, which is a nasturtium, to see how they would kind of attract or pull different insects away from the peppers. And so we had a really good growing summer from the peppers. And what we did here is we were out on a patio, which is getting full sun throughout the day. So 6 or more hours of sunlight. You always need that with your edible crops for the most part. They really like to be in full sun condition. And we started with these 12-inch pots. They're 12 inches in diameter, and also the depth is about 12 inches. And for peppers, that was perfect. That worked out really, really well for us. We chose black pots, black plastic, so we could move them, turn them easily, that type of thing. And then also with the black, we knew that it would heat up with the sunlight during the day. And of course, peppers really like those warm conditions, soil conditions, and temperatures as well. Now that we're in October, we're actually approaching the end of October, the peppers have really, really stunted. And so we wanted to get out here and show you kind of the results of the peppers as we planted them. I should mention here that we had a fairly hot summer, so we were watering basically daily to every other day, and we were trying to water in the morning. Thorough watering, so we were going ahead watering the entire soil substrate at the base of the plant. We tried not to water the foliage, which is always good to kind of reduce any spotting disease or any mildews or anything like that. So watering the base of the plant, fully moistening the soil, letting it run out of the bottom of the pot, and then after we did every one of them, going back and of course watering again, thoroughly moistening the soil and letting the water run out the pot. So lots of times we got away with going every other day in these 12 by 12 pots. So that worked out really, really well for us. The other thing that we did is we used garden tone at the time of planting these peppers, and also applied garden tone about every 2 weeks. So that's what the package instructs. So that's what we were applying, our garden tone, on every one of the peppers as we went through the growing season as well. This season was kind of interesting because we were sort of cool and wet at the beginning, and then all of a sudden it just turned hot and dry on us. So actually, and you'll see in some of Taylor's footage, that the peppers almost like they started growing and everything was going okay, and then they kind of stunted when that hot, dry weather came through. It sort of stopped them, and then they started kind of growing through it again. So some of these peppers, you'll see like a lower level of growth, and then it got kind of skinny, if you will, and then it started to push more growth at the tip. So it was really kind of an interesting growing season in that aspect. So here we go. We'll talk about some of the peppers that we grew. We tried to grow kind of all different kinds just to see how they would perform in the container. And I will tell you, overall, I think they did very well. However, the smaller peppers, of course, are going to be very, very productive for you. The larger peppers, they just take a lot of time. And so I'll show you that as well. We decided to do the nasturtium, and nasturtiums in general, and you can tell a lot of them are seeding right now, are producing seeds as I pop those off. Some of them are still flowering. They're doing a marvelous job. The nasturtium flower, of course, you can consume. It is a really nice edible. It has a little bit of a spicy taste to it, so it's fun, a little bit different. You can throw it in salads and make it a garnish and whatever you'd like to do with it. But as far as nasturtiums are concerned, we wanted them to be kind of a trap crop, if you will. And so we wanted to plant the nasturtium, and this was a quart-sized nasturtium that I divided some of them because some of them were humongous, and planted that along with the pepper, hopefully in this case trapping any type of insects that would come through on the peppers. And believe me, all season long, the nasturtiums were looking great, the peppers were looking great, no problems whatsoever, no insects, no disease, nothing. And then towards the end of the season, literally at the end of September, I came out and some of the nasturtiums had black aphids on them, okay? And it was just kind of interesting how the aphids really gravitated to the nasturtiums, and then some of the pepper plants had just a little bit of aphids on them, but really no harm was done to them. So very, very little problems with insects and things. And like I said, nasturtiums kind of grow through the season, and they kind of look a little bit haggard sometimes. You have to go in and kind of clip them and clean them up, and then they'll start to fill out again. So they kind of go through that sort of cycle where they do need some tidying up, then they'll fill back out again and go back down. So we're at the end of the season, and obviously they're looking a little haggard. There are no aphids on these nasturtiums that I see right now. And this pepper right here, this is actually Corno di Toro, and it is an Italian horn pepper. So it's a long pepper, and we'll show you pictures of it. It was absolutely gorgeous. It produced on the bottom of its scaffolding branches, it produced 4 really nice sized peppers for us. And they were absolutely gorgeous, wonderful, really, really tasty. It's not a hot pepper. It's a pepper that you can use for stuffing or grilling or what have you. And then it stopped. And then now at the top of the branches here, there are all these new buds and peppers coming out. So if we had another month, let's say in the growing season, we would see a lot more productivity with this pepper. But it did, it just kind of, it had that stunting point where it stopped. So that's Corno di Toro. This other pepper back here, this is Big Bertha, and you might know Big Bertha. Big Bertha is a really well-known green bell pepper, and Big Bertha, you can tell, beautiful stem, and with these peppers we really didn't need any support or anything like that. No staking. They grew very, very well in the pots just by themselves. The nasturtiums look pretty clean. Oh nope, I'm lying. So these nasturtiums by Big Bertha do have some of those dark aphids, those black aphids there on the stems. So they really did a nice job of trapping again. And as you can tell, this plant grew and branched and did really well for us. Unfortunately, with the bell peppers, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of time for those fruit to develop. So the same thing with this plant. We harvested maybe 5 green bells off of this plant, and it was from that early growth again, and then it just kind of stopped. It stunted. And then now there are tons of buds on this. So again, if we had another month or so with the Big Bertha pepper, we would get quite a few more. So again, that longer growing season really, really helps with the peppers, especially if you're having a really hot, dry season early on. So that's working out very, very well. Let me pull this one forward, and this was really our best performer all season. This is our sweet banana pepper, okay? And sweet banana was so productive, and you can still see it. Look we still have some peppers on there, and we've had some really cool nights. We actually had a frost last night, and these peppers are still going and still producing. So the sweet banana, I'll tell you, absolutely the best performer that we had in the containers, and it just kept on flushing and producing more buds, more blooms, more peppers all the way through the season. It was like it just never stopped like some of the others. It never got stunted. It just kept on producing. It did really, really nicely. Stayed really, really clean. We didn't have any problems on these nasturtiums. I didn't see them have any aphids on them. So this was a really, really clean pepper plant. Did really, really wonderful. Through the season though, I had a little bit of wind blowing on this one. So we just put one stake in there when it was younger, and I just left the stake in as a little bit of support. But to be honest, I can pull that stake out and this stem is really, really sturdy. So no problem. It was really early on in the season when they were little. And this one actually, we had planted 2 little peppers and one did die, and so we were like, oh, we're gonna throw and let this other big one kind of grow through. So it did a really, really good job this year. And I think sweet bananas, if you like banana peppers, like I said, I wouldn't hesitate growing this plant. It's just a really, really productive pepper plant for you. This other one that we grew in the black 12-inch pot, this one's garden salsa. And you can see there are peppers on this. This plant kind of flushed, if you will, flushed out in a ton of buds and blooms and peppers. So the first harvest we got out of it was phenomenal. I thought this plant was gonna just keep on really, really pushing them out, kind of be equal to the sweet banana pepper. The problem was with this one is I didn't divide this nasturtium and it kind of took over. And I'm going to tell you, this nasturtium just started filling in the pot more and it kind of squeezed the pepper sort of off to the side. It also attracted a lot of aphids. So the pepper plant itself stayed pretty clean, but there were a lot of aphids around, and I'm actually getting some on my yellow jacket. And so needless to say, that pepper really started to slow down its growth processes. As you can tell, it did continue to bud and bloom, just not as heavily as it did at the beginning and middle of the season. But we did harvest like a medium amount of pepper, so it did a nice job. And again, garden salsa, definitely a hotter pepper, does have some heat to it, a little bit less than a jalapeno typically, but I will tell you, fairly productive. So whatever you do, don't plant a lot of nasturtiums next to it, okay? There are 2 peppers that we decided to grow because we had pots out in the patio and we just wanted to see how they performed. We have this fiber clay pot that is about the same size, depth, and also size of the black clay. Fiber clay is a little bit different, obviously thicker substance than the plastic. Does hold the soil temperature really well, does hold moisture very well. And this is gypsy. And I really liked gypsy peppers. They are a sweet pepper. They will turn colors. So it's kind of like that multicolored little mini bell that you see sometimes in the grocery store. And Gypsy just kept on going. She was a really good producer for us. The nasturtium stayed nice and clean in this pot, and look at Gypsy still got a bunch of fruit. So we're gonna go ahead and take some of these off, but really, really nice, small little bells and very tasty, really good productive plant. This was an All-American selection winner, and like I said, fairly vigorous, really did a nice job, just a step below the sweet banana pepper. So do look for Gypsy as well. That's a really neat pepper. The last one that I wanted to show you was the jalapeno. And we had this terracotta pot out here, again, basically the same size as the black pots that we grew our peppers in. And I wanted to grow the jalapeno in terracotta just to see if terracotta made a difference in how the plants performed. And the jalapeno, you can tell, extremely sturdy. Trunk, no problem whatsoever. There are some aphids here on the nasturtium, so definitely trap those aphids. I've not seen any aphid issues on the plant itself. And you can tell the plant grew up. It produced that first flush of jalapenos kind of down low, and then it really came up and started branching out. And you'll see the jalapenos obviously have ripened from green to red on this plant. And it's done a nice job, don't get me wrong. The terracotta, I didn't really see any differences with using terracotta over the black plastic. So I think it's really overall preference, what you prefer to use. And they kept the moisture in as long as the black plastic did. So really it was very, very similar growing conditions. But I'll tell you, the jalapeno has done really, really nicely, has held up very, very well, and has fruited fairly consistently throughout the growing season. So the jalapenos, the gypsy peppers, the sweet banana for sure, really, really great. I think the garden salsa would have done a lot better if we reduced the size of the nasturtium in the pot. All being smaller peppers, I think that was a great decision to use those types of smaller varieties in container gardens. I really think that with your larger peppers like the Big Bertha Bell and also the Corno de Toro, if you plant them in the garden and give them a little bit more depth and space, they probably will fill out nicely for you. The key is to get that soil warmer at the beginning of the season so you can plant them earlier and give them a long stage or long growth period. So I think ultimately Big Bertha and a big pot, maybe bigger than the 12 by 12, would probably benefit that plant. Not necessarily putting a companion plant with it, to fill out, and really hoping that you get some good long sun and a nice long season for it might help. And the Corno de Toro as well. If we can get maybe into a bigger pot, let's say a 16 or an 18 inch diameter with some 12-inch depth, that would probably help that plant as well. Just kind of develop and again, increase the heat, the soil temperature, get it started faster out there in the garden, and hopefully you get a long time window where you can grow more big peppers, okay? So that's basically peppers in a container in a nutshell. Just start with your 12 by 12 container. Go ahead and fill it with planting mix. Go ahead and make sure that you use, we wanted to use a slow release organic food, so we used Garden Tone in the planters when we first planted. We planted them with one companion plant, the nasturtiums, which again, they did their job. They trapped those aphids for us, so that was really, really good. I'd probably start with a smaller nasturtium next time, not a big quart size. And then go ahead, make sure you're watering regularly, staying on a good watering schedule. Make sure you're fertilizing regularly, following the directions of your fertilizer package. Put them in full sun conditions. We did rotate about every week. I kind of turned the pots and rotated them around so they were getting even sun. And you're ready to go. Enjoy.